Welcome to Winning Retirement Television. My name is Cynthia DeFazio. I'm joined today by Greg and Kristen Taylor of Legacy Retirement Group. And to our viewers at home, we're going to talk about some common concerns and risks about your retirement plan. Kristen, how are you today?
I'm doing fabulous, and our roses match.
Oh, this is amazing. We didn't even plan this, Greg. We had no time. Oh, just here we are.
And here I am, a thorn between two roses.
Or you're the stem because it's green.
Okay.
Or the leaves, maybe. I don't know.
Were you saying leave you alone?
I like that.
See how quickly we just go off the rails?
Yes.
Well, obviously, you both are so passionate about meeting with families each and every week, and you're helping them navigate into this new territory of their life known as retirement. Can we talk about some of the biggest risks and concerns that you're seeing families face today?
That sounds great.
Okay. Kristen, what do you think? What are some of the concerns that they're coming in with right now?
So the risk of potentially outliving the money you've saved.
Ooh, big one.
And that's a huge one, because I would say most of the families that come in to meet with us, it doesn't matter what they've saved, whether it's $200,000 or $2 million, I feel like that concern is still there.
Sure.
Because everyone spends differently. We tell the boys all the time, don't base what someone's net worth is off of the type of car they drive.
That
right?
is true.
Because someone could be driving a Rolls Royce or Bentley. Oh, I said that word. Can you believe I said it? I thought, why did I pick that? I usually can't say two R's together. But someone might be driving those cars and have $100,000 in their bank.
True.
And they may be driving an old beat up Honda or Cadillac, like one of our dear clients, and have a $4 million net worth. You just don't know. And so that concern is different for everyone. And income equals lifestyle. So the money you pay yourself when you're retired is your lifestyle. So those vacations you want to take, the basic living expenses you have, you know, you want to go out to eat, you want to do fun things with the time you have now, you need money to do that.
That's true.
And Kristen, we've had so many really cool families come in recently. And so just last week, I was meeting with one of our families and we were doing their review, their annual review. And I said, so what's new? And they said, well, we've planned a trip. And they're going to Ireland for 2 weeks.
Wow.
Now, she said now, in reality, she said our daughter does all the planning for us. So she's our travel agent, you know.
Okay.
But daughter is kind of forcing them to get outside their comfort zone. Aww. And the husband's going, he said, Greg, I'm going kicking and screaming. he's like, this is totally outside my comfort zone, but they've got it all planned out, all mapped out, all the places they're going to go, all the things they're going to do. And so that part is part of their retirement journey, is taking trips with their daughter.
Aww.
Another family a few weeks ago came in and they had just gotten back this past summer from a month in Italy.
Wow. Beautiful.
And they did all Airbnbs. They traveled all around Italy by train.
Amazing.
And, you know, they did it economically, you know, as much as you can do for a month, and had a great time. And so for some people, the idea of doing world travel or even traveling the U.S. is a big part of their lifestyle.
Yeah.
Now I've got some others. Their big thing, loving on the grandkids.
Oh, that's a great one.
Oh, yeah.
That's a great one.
And if that's what's important, then great. But what we want people to have confidence in is whatever that retirement dream is, whatever that lifestyle need is, whether it's traveling the world or just hanging out with the grandkids, that they have the confidence they can do it and feel secure in it.
Well, yeah, because if you run out of money, you run out of options, right? As you go through those retirement years. So we're talking about the fun part with the planning and the things you take up your time with, but what about the day-to-day, right? True. Because it's not all just glamorous and wanderlust travels,
You mean you have to pay the bills?
You have to pay the bills, you know?
That is true.
So we mentioned before on the show that I drive a Tesla.
Yes.
And, you know, with the Tesla, you have to power it up. You know, every night I have to plug it in and make sure that I have enough energy to get me where I'm going. It's not as easy as stopping at the gas station.
That's true.
Although I don't miss that. I hated pumping gas. But with an electric car, you have to plan ahead. You have to know how much mileage you're going to need in that car for that day. So right now we're in the thick of basketball season. And so we've got games that are maybe an hour away that I have a half-hour commute to work, a half-hour commute back home, then I'm taking the boys off to the game. I have to be sure that I'm going to have enough power to get everywhere I need to go, and that there's a charger inside if I do need to refill it. And I think the same as the thought process of a retiree. They're wanting to do those fun things, but is there going to be enough there to get through the everyday life, like Greg just said, and still be able to do those things in a couple years? And so that's where the planning comes in. And so importantly, when you're thinking about retiring and thinking through, I like to call it a dream board, if you will, like what you want to do, what's important to you about your money that you've saved all these years. In those retirement years, we have to kind of lay everything out and know that you're going to be okay. When we don't have an end date, we don't know how long we're going to live through our retirement.
That's true.
We don't want people to feel stranded. So here's some questions you can ask yourself at home to see if you're actually prepared for this. And one is, have you saved enough to maintain your lifestyle? And that can be a difficult question. Whether you've saved $2 million or whether you've saved $500,000, that can be really a difficult question to know. And so part of our discovery meeting is to help people really come to terms and grips with that.
Okay.
It really is, because once we've identified and nailed down what the actual need is for income, then you kind of back into it and say, okay, what's the gap? How much gap between the income that you already have coming in plus what you actually need to maintain that lifestyle and retirement that you've dreamed of? And once we have identified that gap, now we can find the least amount of assets possible to generate that amount of income. Now, so the question then becomes, do I want to take risks with my income, or do I want to protect my income?
Sure.
So really identifying that and knowing that you have enough, that's number one. Another question to ask is, have you set a realistic budget? And Kristen, that can be a challenge.
That can be a challenge, and I think it goes into play more so than people realize, because you may say on paper, I want to go by the old rule of thumb and invest 50% in stocks, 50% in bonds, and pull 4% out. But is that really realistic with what is going on within your budget? And people don't like to sit down and do a budget, but it's really not that bad of an exercise.
True.
If you are realistic and honest about what you're spending and what you want to do later on, planning ahead, doing that dream board, like I said, then we can kind of work backwards and figure out what makes sense for your family.
The last question I want people to ask themselves right now, has their money transitioned into retirement with them? Because we talk about accumulation versus taking distributions. Well, I just had a family in, and they're age 73, and they've just realized that their required distribution on their tax-deferred dollars this year is going to be $141,000.
Wow. Okay.
So I went back, and I have this software that I use that is able to show people how that can impact their retirement dollars. And even though they'd saved a lot, when we plugged in, say going back the last 22 years of the market, if they took out that $141,000 a year for the last 22 years, they would have actually run out of money before they got there. However, I said, well, what if we can protect the required distribution amount, which would take about half of their deferred dollars, and let the rest of it grow? Then at the end of the same time, they had roughly $4 million left.
Wow.
So how you designate and plan, in other words, your money is transitioning along with you.
That's perfect. Well, Greg and Kristen, we're going to go ahead and take our very first commercial break. To our viewers at home, the number to call is on your screen, 614-336-7660. Greg and Kristen realize that you're navigating towards the retirement years and that you deserve to have a written income plan. Let Greg and Kristen design one for you so that you can have peace of mind in your retirement. We understand that it can be a scary time when you're used to getting that paycheck that comes in regularly, but all of a sudden, you're going to be responsible for paying yourself. Don't miss the opportunity to have your own written income plan drafted by Greg and Kristen Taylor today. If you have your smartphone handy, go ahead, grab it, click on that QR code at the bottom corner of your screen. That will take you right to Legacy Retirement Group's landing page. We're going to take a very short commercial break. When we come back, I want to talk to Greg and Kristen a little bit about stock market volatility. Stay tuned.
They've got quite an extensive resume. Wow, so many years of management. I bet that was fun. So this job requires basic knowledge of the social media and video platforms, content creation, and SEO. How proficient are you in those areas?
Going back to work after retiring is not ideal. I'm Kristen Taylor with Legacy Retirement Group. If you've amassed a nest egg, it's time for a financial advisor to help you reach your retirement goals. We're in one of the greatest tax windows in history, so it makes sense to take advantage of this tax discount while you can. We specialize in retirement planning, tax mitigation, estate planning, and much more. Plan your retirement right. For your complimentary portfolio review and tax analysis, go to testmyretirement.com.
Welcome back to Winning Retirement Television. My name is Cynthia DeFazio. I'm joined today by Greg and Kristen Taylor of Legacy Retirement Group, and we're going to talk a little bit about stock market volatility. So obviously a lot of people that are entering into the retirement years, they're watching the news, they're grabbing the newspaper, they're seeing the ups and the downs of the stock market. So Greg, overall, can stock market volatility be something that actually is a derailment in retirement, can cause concern for people?
For sure, and you know, there's no secret that I'm a big Buckeye fan, right? And so I'm going to use something from the great Woody Hayes. He said, with the forward pass, 3 things can happen.
Okay.
And 2 of them are bad. The receiver can drop the ball.
Okay.
Or it can get intercepted. Now, it's always wonderful, you know, when they complete the pass, right? And that's the good part that can happen. Well, you know what? With the stock market, there's 3 things that can happen, and 2 of them are bad.
Okay.
It can stay sideways for an extended period of time where the market's kind of flat, or it can go down.
Yes.
And none of us like that either, right? And now, when it goes up, we're excited. You know what's troubling sometimes, though, Cynthia, is that many times we review portfolios for people that are retired or getting really close to retirement, and their portfolio is set up in such a way that if the market goes up, they're going to be really successful. But if it does the other 2 things, they're really set up for failure. And so, you know, the idea of planning for the worst, but hoping for the best, it also transitions into retirement planning. It's great to hope for the best, but we need to plan as though the worst could happen. And as we transition, if we have everything riding on the success of the stock market, then we can get ourselves in trouble. So the trouble with our industry, the industry of the financial world, is that there's too many people in my mind that have an agenda. In other words, if someone only sells insurance products, they're going to try to convince us that we should be afraid to invest in the stock market.
Okay.
If someone only sells stocks, bonds, and mutual funds, they're going to say that insurance products and things like annuities are awful and we should never consider them. If we go to our local banker, you know, our local banker would love it if we would just put all our money in the local bank. But none of those, in my mind, are really feasible. We shouldn't have all our money in the bank. In my mind, if you're retired, you shouldn't have all your money in the stock market. You definitely shouldn't have all your money in insurance products. But if you have a balance of those 3, what we've discovered is that it can give you a recipe for success.
Okay.
Because the banks are safe and liquid. They just don't typically keep pace with inflation.
Okay.
Insurance companies can give us income that's protected for life, safety, and some growth. It's just not, they're not 100% liquid.
Okay.
Typically, you have a fee or a penalty if you pull all your money out early. The stock market gives you the most growth potential. For the most part, that money's liquid as well. The problem, you can lose money. So having a balance in the 3 worlds of money, I think, is how we balance out this market volatility.
Absolutely. Kristen, do you feel that a lot of people coming in are just looking for that balance because they just don't know what to do? They don't know where to start because the news, like you mentioned earlier, can be staticky and so full of noise.
Yeah, I do think a lot of times that's what they're looking for, and sometimes they don't even know that's what they're looking for, really, because like Greg likes to always point out with the market, you will be subjected to volatility in the market. It doesn't matter if you're in a quote unquote low risk investment, I think is a tag phrase that we hear sometimes, or if you're risky, you're still going to see those swings. And so although we don't force families to subscribe to our method, it's a part of the conversation, and we don't feel comfortable taking on families to work with us if we don't feel like they have a way to be successful or have some kind of success within the retirement.
Sure.
And by success, I mean not being full of anxiety all the time, or being full of anxiety all the time, and not being happy about taking a trip because they're worried that the money they're spending they're going to need later on, or not being sure that they're going to have their goals met. That's not fun. We don't want to see that in retirement. So we have this, core principle in place because we feel like it works, and it makes people a little bit more confident going through their retirement.
I love that. And Greg, is it ever tied to someone's age about the risk level that they are taking?
It's a great
for
question.
sure.
Okay.
And what I like to describe to people is risk is supported rather by two primary pillars: the pillar of tolerance and the pillar of capacity.
Okay.
And you really need both. The tolerance says I can stomach the ups and downs. I can stomach, the Seven Dwarfs Mine Train at Disney World with Jaden, but some of the more violent roller coasters just aren't my thing any longer, right?
I can understand.
The boys still like what's the one at
The one
Animal
out in
Kingdom?
Oh, yeah. I don't know.
Oh, Everest.
Yes,
Yeah,
Everest.
Yeah.
That one takes you
it goes backwards and
upside down.
and I'm like, okay, I don't really have the stomach for that any longer.
He doesn't want to go near that area anymore.
No, but the boys love it. Christian and Cameron, they love it. Well, so for me, I have a tolerance for some up and down, but just not extreme.
Yeah.
And then there's capacity. The capacity is you can afford it. So if someone saved $300,000 and they need $15,000 a year from their money, if they were to see a 20 or 25% drop, that could be devastating to them.
Yeah.
If someone saved $2 million and they need $100,000 a year, the same thing. So we have to make sure that we have the capacity to take on the amount of risk we're actually taking. And you know what's sad is the average family we meet with has no idea how much risk they're actually taking. And we measure it from 1 to 99. So there's a scale that we use, and it's based on someone's comfort between how much you can go up versus how much it can go down. 1 is I'm scared to death of market volatility. 99 is if I lost 80%, I'd want to figure out where I could buy more.
Right.
And I don't think I've seen a 99 come through, and we've never had someone at 1 either.
Okay.
But somewhere in between is where we land, and we should make sure that how we're investing is in line with how we truly feel.
That makes sense. So now I'm in the Disney vein, and I'm thinking It's a Small World is minimal risk, and then you got Everest up here at the top.
Yes,
Got
that's
it.
right.
I love it. Well, Greg, you and Kristen have a very special offer to present. Let's talk about what that is before we take our second commercial break.
Whenever we feel some discomfort, a few months ago, I was playing in the driveway with the boys in basketball, and I jumped up and jammed my finger.
Okay.
Well, I went in for an x-ray, and they found out, yes, there's a fracture here in my knuckle, and I'm nursing it along for a few months, and now it's fully healed. Well, we want people to know what it's like below the surface for them, to find out that risk number, to see what risk they're actually taking, and find out, is there something that's more efficient that could be done than what they're currently doing? So the first 10 callers, Cynthia, that call in, we're going to offer them the portfolio x-ray.
Wow.
And with that, we're going to sit down with you and really help you discover what you're truly comfortable with, how much you can truly afford to take in risk, and where you currently stand, and then see if there's any way you can improve your current situation.
Greg, thank you so much. Kristen, thank you so much. To our viewers at home, that number to call is 614-336-7660 for your very own portfolio x-ray if you're one of the first 10 callers today. Or if you have your smartphone handy, go ahead, grab it, click on that QR code at the bottom corner of your screen. That will take you right to Legacy Retirement Group's landing page. We're going to take a very short commercial break. We're talking a little bit about risk in this segment, about your retirement, but what about taxes? Would taxes be on that list of risks that you could see? Stay tuned. We'll be right back momentarily. I'm going to ask Greg and Kristen that question.
I'm sometimes nervous when I don't know exactly what to expect. I find that there's a little hesitation in folks to want to go meet with an advisor. Maybe they're not sure of how they've done compared to others, but it's really our job to just sit down and have a conversation. There's an advisor for almost every street corner here in our city. At Legacy Retirement Group, we believe that if you plan smart, you can retire well. We want you to be successful in any economy. And how do you accomplish that in today's world? Well, we first want to look at the principles by which we're playing. You know, no investment decision should ever be made outside the context of your plan. Then your plan determines your positions and what you hold in retirement. We want you to manage risk. We want you to not be surprised by healthcare costs or inflation or taxes. We don't want those to derail your retirement, and our focus has always been consistency and efficiency. Really trying to maintain what it is that we've spent our lifetime accumulating and now transitioning that into a plan, transitioning that into something that feels secure and gives me peace of mind so that I know I'm not going to outlive my money. It's nice to see that relief in people's faces when you can tell they're confident in their plan.
Greg really gets pleasure out of seeing our client success.
Welcome back to Winning Retirement Television. My name is Cynthia DeFazio. I'm joined today by Greg and Kristen Taylor of Legacy Retirement Group. And we know that there are several risks as you're going into your retirement. There would be inflation, healthcare, loss of a spouse, but number 3 on our list today is actually taxes. So Greg and Kristen, taxes overall, why is that a risk in our retirement?
Well, Will Rogers said the only difference between death and taxes is that death doesn't get worse every time Congress meets.
You know, that's a good point. Okay.
So there's so many things that you can unpack when it comes to taxes. But think about it. Taxes impact literally every aspect of our lives.
True.
So we go to work and we get to pay income taxes.
We go home, we pay property taxes.
Yes, you go to the store and you pay sales tax. And then you invest after you work, after you pay your tax, you invest that money, and then guess what you get to pay on the investments that you make? Capital gains.
Taxes, capital gains. Yep.
So then you save in your retirement accounts, and every time you pull out of a 401k, every time you pull out of an IRA or a 403b or any of those tax deferred accounts, guess what you get to pay now?
Taxes.
Taxes. And then let's say you're really successful. You take Social Security, and then you make more than, as a couple, $42,000 a year, and now you pay tax on 85% of your Social Security. And then you get Medicare when you turn 65, and if you make over a certain amount, now you get to pay extra tax on Medicare because of the amount of income you have coming in. So you pay tax on your health care, you pay tax on your Social Security, things from work, things on your home, the things you buy at the store.
Everything.
Everything.
It's like quadruple taxes to the second power, right?
Ooh, that's a big one. So what do we do about it? How can we get off of this? You know, I feel like, you know, as a kid, I always wanted, my little brother, Chuck, he's not little brother any longer, but younger brother, and he had a gerbil. And in that cage for the gerbil, he had one of those, you know, wheels that went around, and that gerbil would get in that thing, and for hours during the day, that gerbil would go round and round and round and round and round. What do you call that? Just a...
I'm just thinking of those merry-go-round things at the playground, the metal ones they used to have.
The one that make you dizzy?
Yes, that you couldn't get off of if you had a jerk friend of yours spinning it around.
And they kept going, going.
Yes,
Like,
and he was saying that,
and sometimes you would sit in the middle and you'd be like, okay, I've had enough, stop.
Yeah, that's taxes.
Yeah, that is, because taxes will make you dizzy.
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely. How do we get off this merry-go-round anyway? We have to do it on purpose. You have to decide, I'm getting off this thing. I'm getting off this train. I'm not, and by the way, this train goes to a place I don't think a lot of people want to go to.
Well, and here's the thing. I mean, pay your taxes. We're not saying don't pay your taxes, but be efficient with it, right?
Yeah.
Do what you can. There's tax code that allows for deductions, exclusions, exemptions, and we've been so trained throughout our whole life to defer. How many times have we said that on the show over the years? I mean, we've been so trained to defer.
Yes.
It was so refreshing sitting down just as a personal meeting with our CPA. We're friends with him, and you know, having dinner, and just him even saying that that is something that's probably been wrong in the industry. Instead of, you know, working on delaying, be proactive about things. Figure out a way that's legal and available to all of us to be efficient.
Sure.
For sure. And when you think about all this, we are at the mercy of our government.
That is true.
With the stroke of a pen, they can change the rules at any time. They really can.
Yeah.
So I'm of the opinion, Cynthia, that rather than waiting to pay our taxes, we should go ahead and pay ahead of time.
Okay.
You know,
With the disclaimer, if you can afford to do it.
if you can afford to do it, there are some caveats to that. Those that are in the 32% and higher tax brackets, we're still having them wait. But those who are in the 24% tax brackets and lower, we want to get as much tax paid within those tax brackets while we have them as possible in most cases. And it is a case-by-case basis, and that's why people really need their own personal tax map.
Yes.
They need it laid out for them. What does a tax map even do? It gives you an expectation of what the amount of taxes you could owe during your lifetime. And even how much your kids or grandkids could owe when you're gone. It also gives you an expectation of when you turn 73 of what your required minimum distributions might be like and how that tax can affect your retirement. So that's a big, big picture of what it could look like. And then we want to help people strategize as to how they can fix it.
Greg, thank you so much. Kristen, thank you so much. To our viewers at home, that number to call is 614-336-7660. We know you'd love to have a copy of your own personalized tax map so you can take a look at what your projections could be. Should you make some changes today? Quite possibly. That number to call, 614-336-7660. Be safe, be happy, and be blessed. We'll see you back 1 week from today on Winning Retirement Television with Greg and Kristen Taylor. Take care.